This right here is a cymbal blank, and we are going to turn it into a handcrafted cymbal. So a cymbal blank is a completely untensioned piece of bronze. This one right here is 22 inches and it is 2452 grams. And we are going to shoot for a medium high to high profile cymbal. And the landing weight is going to be around 2200 grams. So I'm going to take you through the process a little bit, show you how it sounds immediately after it's been hammered, immediately after it's been lathed, after it's rested, and we'll see what kind of cymbal this thing becomes. All right, I just came in from the workshop, hammered this thing a ton, as you can tell, and in just a second, you'll hear what it sounds like. It is going to sound very dry, very articulate. It's going to have very little sustain. And that is what happens after you work on a cymbal like this, just right after the work is done. The atoms in the metal need time to rest and settle and adjust to their new shape. And that takes place fairly quickly, but it continues to take place over the weeks and months after a cymbal is finished. So first playing example will be right now, which I stopped hammering this thing about 5 minutes ago. And then the next playing example you'll hear is after it's had just overnight to rest. And so if you're listening with headphones, you'll be able to hear more sustain and more openness to the sound. So check it out. All right, so that is it after about 14 hours of rest, and I'm actually really happy with how it sounds as a completely unlathed cymbal. Usually cymbals, before you take them to the lathe, are really choked, really dry. They have very little life to them, but this thing has a lot of life, even though it's still got the oxidized crust on it. So from here, I'm actually going to change up my plan a little bit. I'm going to lathe the underside, add a little bit of a taper, but first, at least, I'm going to just lathe the very outer edge of the top and then use a blunt metal tool to lathe on the top. It's not going to be removing material, but it will be adding tension. And the point of that is I just really want to see how it would sound if it was designed to be more of a half-Turk cymbal, which basically is like a half-lathe cymbal. And we'll see what kind of sound we get from there. I might even let it rest for a week or two just to really let it open up and breathe. And then from there, we'll revisit it and decide if we want to leave it as is or if I want to go in and completely lathe the top. But either way, it's got so much life, and the way it's sounding now, I'm really thinking that the lathing is going to be fairly minimal. It's going to be, I'll probably keep a little bit more weight on it than I was originally anticipating. So let's give that a shot and revisit it. All right, here it is. Did the full lathing pass on the underside, a little bit of lathing out at the edge, and then used a blunt tool to lathe the unlathed surface. And this could be a completed cymbal. I really like the stick articulation that it has. It's got a nice growl to it, a little bit of trash, and it still opens up when you crash it. But it's not quite the vibe I'm going for, so I am going to take it to the lathe right now and do a full pass on the top. And that might finish the cymbal off. Once I do that, we'll do another playing example, but then I'll let it rest for about 10 days. And we'll see where we're at then, and then button this thing up. All right, so top lathing has happened. I actually went in and spent more time than I was anticipating removing weight and adding more of a taper. I removed a fair amount of weight, so it's now around 2266 grams. The blank was a little bit over 2400 grams when it started, so we're down in weight a little bit. And this is actually a 22.5 cymbal. I don't think I mentioned that before. It's a little bit bigger in diameter, so 2266 for a 22.5 is very, very thin. And I've also gone in and done more hammering. As you remove weight, you sometimes have to go back and add more tension with hammering just to balance the cymbal out. And so I also did that to really tighten it up and really give it more of an umbrella shape so that when it was super thin, you still had the presence and articulation of the stick definition that would still sit above the wash. So I'm really happy with how it is right now, and we're going to let it rest for about 10 to 14 days and revisit it, and I think we'll be finished on this thing. All right, the cymbal is done. The final weight is 2266 grams. After it had rested for 2 weeks, I came in and did another pass on the anvil and added really deep hammer marks in this band along the edge because I felt like it was a bit too washy and I wanted it to have a bit more control. It's finished though, and I'm really happy with how it sounds. It's more of a crash ride. It works as a ride in lower volume music, but the more you lay into it, that crash really does bloom, and at a certain volume, it'll overtake the stick. And I wanted to take it this far to show you how many types of cymbals you can get out of just one blank. This cymbal could have been finished many times back when, even back when it didn't have a lathe pass on the top, just near the edge. That was my personal favorite version of this cymbal, but I wanted to continue with it just to show how much you can do to a blank to craft it into a specific sound. So drop a comment below. Let me know which version of this cymbal you liked the best. And I'll also be offering commissions. So if you have a specific sound in mind or an idea in mind and you want me to make you a cymbal, we can chat about that. But in the meantime, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and keep an eye out for the next video. Thanks.